Hello and welcome to the Quackcast. This is the Drunkduck Quackcast, and with me is Baines and Tanserine. Hello.
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 Oh my god, listen to that. No delays. Straight there. I didn't even have to pretend there was no delay by taking out the delay afterwards with the editing, because these two just jumped in head first. That's brilliant. Alright. Hello, guys.
Hello.
This is the Drunkduck Quackcast number 664. I'm Azir, of course, as I've already said, and yeah, we're going to talk about parodies today, which is a fascinating subject. There's lots of parodies we can mention. They're all over the place. Beautiful things. Yeah, parodies. But before we get into that, we have to bring up the featured comic that Quackcast has given us this week. And what is that beautiful little featured comic? It's Alpha Humans. Now, is Alpha Humans a parody? I don't know, because I didn't read it to feature it. That was Quai. She did that. Okay, so she's going to tell you about that now.
Hello, this is Quackcast, and the feature I've selected for this week is The Alpha Humans by Darth Desperio, and it is rated T for teen. A young lady, who will soon take on the name Eris Fern, is lost and stuck in the frigid rain on a dark, stormy night. Fortunately for Eris, a black and white cat with speaking abilities presents itself and acts as a magical guide to find shelter. Unfortunately, the cave turns out to be a disaster, complete with a terrifying lake creature. Far away, in a remote location, stands an austere, dark gray building where an entry-level tech security analyst and X-Files aficionado, Henry Harrison, detects an anomaly happening on the planet. Henry is about to be promoted to field agent in order to understand the surge of Lochlandrium particles emitted from the same cave that Eris Fern currently resides. The comic art is drawn and colored digitally, with a bold contrast of reds and blues. The layout consists of full-sized comic pages. Follow the feline down the cave creature hole and read The Alpha Humans by Darth Desperio, rated T.
And that was Quackcast talking about Alpha Humans. Alright, so next up we have the featured music. Gumwallace has given us a theme again this week, as he usually does. He's very rarely missed it up. And this week he's given us a theme to a comic called Huckleberry. Now, Baines, this I know that name is means something to you, but it's not that. It's it's a theme to an actual comic. Yeah, Huckleberry. It's an eclectic mix of scattered percussive themes that coalesce into a dance of multicolored joy and energy. So take it away, Gumwallace, with your theme to Huckleberry. And that was Gumwallace with his theme to what was that? Huckleberry. Okay, so thank you very much for that, Gumwallace, with your Huckleberry theme. Okay, so we'll talk about it's just not Huckleberry. I should also mention that the comic is done by Matt Comics, and it's rated E for everyone. Okay, so after that, we're talking about the parodies. Parody. So, all right. So, what is a parody? Or satire? I won't really bang on about satire because satire is abused. Unfortunately, the term satire is often misused to describe things that are prank stuff, like articles that are meant to prank people, or even articles that are meant to be fake, just to get views by people in order to sell advertising, and then they call it satire, but it's not really. They're just prank articles, or they're just fake articles, and that's a different thing. Satire is like parody, but it's made to it's making
a real point.
Yeah, it's making a point,
pretending to make a different point. That I don't know exactly how to define satire, but
that was a good explanation. It makes a point. It lampoons something, it spears it, and it's making usually a political point or some kind of clever point. Whereas a lot of these news websites are never satire. They are just fake things in order to get advertising revenue and to spread misinformation, and that's not satire. That's propaganda.
There is also, like in actual satire, there is also an element of exaggeration to make the point. So they augment the issue that they want to focus on, the point that they want to make, by making everything bigger. Sort of like a caricature where you have like the big head with sometimes very small body, or one feature is very prominent, and you realize that this is XYZ.
They include clues to make it obvious that they are satire, and things like The Onion are classic examples of this. And their obvious clue is that they have the fact that it's by The Onion. That's a recognized, label of satire, and it has been for decades. But yeah, so we won't get into that because that realm is full of just wankers. But we'll go into the world of parody, which is...
I mean, you mean the wankers are the people who pretend it's satire when they get in trouble?
Yes.
Like whenever I get in trouble for something I say here, I just say, "Oh, I'm playing a character."
Yeah, or you get in trouble for wanking, which you shouldn't be doing on the Quackcast. That's not very good.
I know. I just said it was in the script. It was in the Quackcast script, and I had to. This is a drive-through, and we don't know what a Quackcast is.
But yeah, all right. So yeah, parodies. That's a fascinating thing. So let's see. The late '90s was it late '90s or early 2000s? I think it was early 2000s. Was a bad time.
Around there in general.
There was way too many parodies because they did this thing called like Not Another Teen Movie. That was a thing because they were all teen movies that they were like American Pie was the modern explosion of the teen sex comedy, and then you had Not Another Teen Movie, which was a parody of that, but it was a really obvious parody. But then you have all these parodies that sort of jump on the bandwagon, like we have Meet the Spartans and
oh my
Hunger
god,
Games
that
one.
I think it's an insult to parody to say Meet the Spartans is a parody, because it's so bad. Oh my god, it's so bad.
And it's more like a reference.
Yeah.
Than a parody. It's weird.
Yeah.
Like a parody should be standalone. I mean, you should be able to enjoy and be entertained by the comedy, even if you don't know what it is referencing. That's, in my opinion, quality parody. That's the one.
I agree. Yeah,
Okay,
and the grandfather of these movies was Airplane, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Which I know the story is. Yes, for sure. And I know it's based on a movie, but I can never remember what movie the storyline is based on, and I've never seen it. but it
Yeah,
doesn't really.
but I mean, it was originally based on a movie, very closely based on a particular movie about an airplane disaster at an airport. But there were a bunch of disaster films in the 1970s about everything you could have a disaster about, and it was really like taking off that theme and making a thing about disaster films in general. That was the point of that whole parody.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and that the good parodies do that. They sort of take something and turn it into become something in their own right. So they don't rely on the thing that they're parodying. And there are some great examples of that, like Austin Powers is.
Oh yeah, my favorite Bond.
Yeah, but it's a generalized parody of not just Bond. It's a parody of like quite specifically something like Bulldog Drummond, which is an English a spy film like in the 1950s sort of thing, or swinging 60s. Was very much in that style. And yes, but what did I say? Austin Powers, yeah. So it parodies like 1960s kind of weirdness and 1970s kind of all that kind of stuff. It all mixes in and it creates something new, which is unique. And we look at Austin Powers. We don't think of him as a parody character. We think of Austin Powers as Austin Powers.
Yeah,
that's why it works.
Yeah, Johnny English as well. I would say one of the more modern, like more recently produced parodies, like the first one at least, because the second one it tries to be its own thing. But the first movie is again a parody of all these modern Bond movies, and with the CGI gadgets, with all of that. And personally, I find it one of the best attempts.
I've never seen it. I have to watch it because I got a bit tired of Rowan Atkinson after finished
Mr. Bean.
Yeah, finished Mr. Bean, finished Blackadder and all that kind of stuff, and then he did something like Thin Blue Line, and then
I haven't seen that one. Yeah,
it's all right. He was in Hot Shots, wasn't he too? So he was in another parody.
He could have,
I think that's where the Johnny English character comes from Hot Shots.
Oh, okay. Well, in any case, I laughed in that movie. I mean, Johnny English, and for me, it's very hard to laugh in especially parody movies. But I actually laughed. I remember like laughing a lot, belly laughs, and so
Well, he was in Hot Shots playing that character, maybe not by that name, but and Hot Shots was a parody of the Rambo films, and also to a lesser extent Schwarzenegger and I don't know, action movies from the 80s. And those are classics in their own right, but very obvious in the style of airplane, sorry. But I still love Hot Shots, the first one and the second one.
Yes, me too.
They're good,
And of course, for me, what is the king of all parodies is Spaceballs.
Oh, Spaceballs! Oh my God, that's just beautiful.
Yeah.
And people had tried to do Star Wars in so many ways in the 80s, but no one had done anything that would rival Spaceballs. Spaceballs was just awesome.
Rick Moranis sells that movie. And it's but all of them. Bill Pullman as well, if I'm not mistaken, he plays the Han Solo slash.
Yeah.
He's also Luke Skywalker and Han Solo, depending on the scene.
John Candy as
oh my
Chewbacca.
God! Yes, I'm a Moog. I love the Moog. The Moog is an awesome character.
We even have it was a cameo by the guy who played John Hurt doing his alien character.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the chest burster. He was in.
Oh my God! Yes, you are
Cafe.
right. I remember that. Yeah, and
Thing bursts out and then does the frog from Looney Tunes. Hello, my
Yeah.
baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal.
check, please. Like and that this is like I still remember lines from Spaceballs, and that I think is the proof that this movie is genius on its own. It just happens to also be a parody of all these films. So
So that
Right.
Spaceballs is one that's right up there. That's a way above like Hot Shots because this is just not a fun
Yeah.
film. This is like a parody of parodies. There's a few like
Yeah.
that. Life of Brian is one,
yeah,
and Holy Grail, of course. So those two definitely are same kind of realm as Spaceballs, probably a bit higher, but yeah. Those ones are
I don't know. I mean, but your mileage might vary. I prefer Spaceballs, honestly. But-
Yeah, it depends. I mean, they're older. Definitely. So those ones, or even Jabberwocky to some degree.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, it's the same. It's a Terry Gilliam one, so you know it's going in the same kind of thing. Let's see. Oh yeah, but okay, let's take it into the more modern realm. Parodies
Yeah.
that exist now, like not Meet the Spartans, or I think look, another teen movie is not bad. It's very broad,
It's okay.
but it's okay.
Yeah.
That's one of the better ones, I think. Yeah, not another
Mm.
that crop. It's kind of it's a little better.
The problem with a lot of modern ones is that they rely on potty humor way too much, and it's not even good potty humor. It's just like, oh, okay, we're going to lampoon this by showing the exact scene we want to parody just with farts. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's not funny if you are, older than 6. So,
Yeah.
True. But say Kingsman is people will look at that as being like an action film in its own right, but obviously it's a parody of the James Bond kind of stuff. You know, it's a reinvention and it parodies aspects of that by instead of having like a suave, sophisticated MI5 operative who used to be in the SAS. Now we have a chav, a commoner, a cockney in the same kind of role. You know, he's a cockney and all this kind of stuff. So he's
I have to see that. Okay.
Yeah, he's very unlikely to be that kind of character. He's dressing all slick and stuff like that. Yeah, but he's a little cockney, so it's a very different feel. So I definitely think that is definitely worthy of the title parody, and it's good in its own way.
I would posit that also Men in Black is a parody of all the alien and space films, the original Men in Black, because there are so many elements that are like lampshaded in it has this feeling that it is very elegantly making fun of all the tropes of this kind of sci-fi, like X-Files and what's the other one? I cannot think of it right now.
Millennium and all those.
Yeah, thank you. And and First Contact sort of things, and you also have like the Secret Society, all of that. So and it is the first one is very funny, at least to me. I feel it is the best of all of those.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's also like I cannot forget that scene where Will Smith is taking this exam, where they're sitting in the egg seats and everyone is trying to fill in the test, but they have no hard surface to write on. And he goes to just grab the table that squeaks all the way to his I don't know. I mean, I absolutely had a ball with this, but I also felt that it was a loving satire towards all these other films. So.
Yeah, that's a good point, Tans. That one was excellent. So another one that is not immediately thought of as parody is, of course, say the Edgar Wright movies, Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah, Shaun of the Dead.
That's
Absolutely.
a parody of Dawn of the Dead, I think, which is pretty obvious in the title. Yeah, in a very British suburban style. And Hot Fuzz would seem to be a parody of American cop shows, but it's not really. It's really a parody of British kind of secret society, like
It's kind of a combination, I think. Yeah, but Wicker Man and
exactly Wicker Man, and like it's basically a parody of every single British mystery show from the 1940s onwards.
Right.
If you've seen any, they're all like that.
As well as buddy cop movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a parody of that, but it also is that.
And that's the genius. Like the good ones actually are what they are satirizing. They are just doing it in a way that is more, trope savvy in a sense. Like everyone is a little bit.
Right.
It didn't. Everyone loves Hot Fuzz. That's like a university. But for me, I didn't, because it's parodying those things, but it's parodying them so closely that, I mean, when you've seen enough, you've seen all of them actually do everything that Hot Fuzz does. So it's like a retread of the same thing, because they've all done that before, and they've all parodied themselves before, and they've all self-referenced. And Hot Fuzz is doing the exact same thing. It's just adding the buddy cop thing on top of it, so it didn't feel like anything like new to me. So that's but no one else feels the same way. That's just me. Like everybody else loves it.
You have to know the stuff that's being parodied really well. I mean, that's one of my issues with scary movie parodies.
Oh, I don't like the scary movies. Like the first one's okay, but I mean, even the first one, I didn't feel that it was like all that.
It wasn't. Seen the first one. I'm not sure.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have seen a couple more. So.
You think after you make the first one, why make another one? Then you're just parodying yourself. You can't do that.
Well, it's also like Scream is kind of a parody.
Scream is a parody.
Yeah,
so it's a parody of a parody.
Slasher movie parody, but also, like we were just saying, delivers as a slasher movie. And a great franchise. Scary movie, like the crassness of the comedy that you were talking about before, that's off-putting. But it's also the fact that they're parodying like line readings from Scream and stuff. Like this is funny to me.
Generally, I mean, and unfortunately, for some reason, this scary movie formula caught on a lot, and then we got we got more horrible stuff but that was made even more
right,
by numbers, so that it was even more uninspired, and then we end up in like Meet the Spartans
Meet the Spartans came from that. Exactly. They did a Hunger Games, they did a superhero movies kind of thing. But I mean, it's the one kind of saving grace of that kind of stuff is it's extremely formulaic and stylized in a National Lampoon's kind of traditional way, like Mad Magazine kind of way. So that would be the only kind of like excuse for it. It's Mad Magazine version of.
That's true. It's pretty close.
Mad Magazine is better in quality. It has better. You know what I consider a good superhero parody, even though it's not marketed as that. It is called, and I don't know how many have seen that movie. It is called Sky High, and it's a bit of a parody of the superhero trope, but also like the origin story of superheroes plus magic school, and it's really well done.
Yes, it is. I was going to say it's kind of like Harry Potter. The little bit I
Yeah,
know about Harry Potter, yeah. So it's kind of
yeah.
Well, for you, I mean, then we can also get into the realm of the re-examinations of the idea, like The Boys, which
Yeah.
it's not really parody, but it's like it's satire. So yeah, that Boys is definitely satire. Unlike the fake news sites, The Boys is satire of superhero
Mm-hmm.
films, or not even superhero films, but the whole genre.
Mm-hmm.
deconstruction, yeah, like Watchmen back in the day.
Yeah, The Watchmen was the same kind of thing. It was a satire of superhero genre.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's a slight difference between that and parody. They're like the evil version of parody.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's it. If you, in order to make a parody, and this is why I could never make a parody, at least not yet. I don't have anything to say. You need to have something to say, to have some sort of love letter, if you like, or at least if you feel something is ridiculous, to have to say that, and then you can make your parody. It has to have some reason of existing. You can't just ridiculize it and call it a parody.
Yeah.
Even less so as satire. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like The Spy Who Loved Me, what's his name? Austin Powers.
Mm-hmm.
It's a love letter to the genre, yeah. It's just not making fun of it. It's actually reinventing it in a new silly way. Which was cool. And even like the Kingsmen, that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
reinventing it. I wouldn't call that a satire on spy films. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not really a parody anymore, but I still think of it like it only exists because of
Yeah.
it's parodying certain aspects of it. But yeah,
And also, oh, gone.
there's a big difference between the bad parodies
Mm.
and the good ones. So like one of the earlier parodies of spy films was of course Casino Royale, which
Mm.
the
Seen it.
studio producing the James Bond films didn't have the right to the first book of James Bond. That was this other studio, and that was Casino Royale. That story, and so they decided to make a parody version,
Mm.
and they did a terrible job. I think they had every single star at the time in it. I think David
Like Peter
Niven
Sellers is in it, I think. I've never seen it, but I think, and Woody Allen is in it, I believe.
Yeah, David
Oh,
Niven
now
is
that
the
you mention it,
spy.
Hmm.
how is it called, this Star Trek style parody, where you
Orville,
have a what?
the Orville.
No, it's not that. I don't think
Galaxy
it.
Quest.
Yes, that's the one with
Oh,
like Sigourney Weaver and with your
Oh,
little
that's
uh,
fantastic. Yeah.
animal print bag that I still love. That was A tier
oh,
parody.
amazing.
Yeah.
It really was. I was listening to the commentary back in the day of Farscape because I loved that series. I've watched it over and over and over. And on the commentary track, these guys are talking and they're saying, "Yeah, oh my god, we all went to see a Galaxy Quest and we loved it, and it was just it like lampoons our industry perfectly." And they were talking about specific scenes. Like, yeah, because we do that, like you have to shut off the engine or something, but you have to go through this torture like level sort of obstacle course in order to do to shut off the engine because there's all these blocks
Oh, right,
falling and all that kind of stuff. And they're saying, oh my god, the writers would always do this kind of stuff, and we had scenes like this on set, and we had like tension between actors exactly like this in the film, and that was so Galaxy Quest, and even the Star Trek people talked about it as well. So it was like, yeah, this is the show that experts who are in the genre agree represents it perfectly.
Oh yeah.
So good one, Tans. There were speaking of that, there were
It's so. I'm sorry, but it's so strong. I don't even think of it as a parody. It stands on its own so well. But obviously, it's all based on
Yeah,
Star Trek, like the show and the behind the scenes, kind of the actors who clash, and the arrogance of certain actors.
yeah,
oh yeah, it's completely based on
And the fandom, like the fans are the hero
Correct.
and the heroes in the end. It like sort of is beautiful,
yeah,
like loving parody to the whole thing.
yeah, it's a loving parody. That's a good
yeah,
point.
yeah. You
Absolutely
can tell.
loving parody.
Yeah, you can tell that the ones that the people that made this movie all are Star Trek fans.
Oh
So
yeah.
Well, that's when you
it's
get the
absolutely.
best stuff. Like
Mm-hmm.
Orville, which was this TV series by Seth Meyer, Seth something or other. So he did that as like a sort of a parody of sci-fi shows using Star Trek: The Next Generation as his influence, and in the end, because of a sort of a revival of Star Trek shows at the time that were very unlike Star Trek. I mean, with just
Yes.
people writing these things, they didn't really have a feel for the actual, Star Trek universe. But the Orville, which was a parody series, was thought of as being an actual continuation of Star Trek: Next Generation because it stuck more closely to the universe than these in canon things did, which was weird. And it started out as this parody, with jokes and all this, and then it became more serious, which was really weird. So it stopped being a parody. It just evolved into a serious sci-fi thing. It's bizarre. Yeah. What did you think of that, Baines?
I liked it. I liked it a lot more once the humor kind of went away because that
Seth
kind of
MacFarlane. That's it.
yeah, Seth MacFarlane, and like that kind of comedy is not really my cup of tea. So in the early episodes, I was like, I don't know, but yeah, when it kind of got rid of that, I liked it quite a bit.
That's a bit broad, and the original it was based on the aesthetics of Star Trek: Next Generation, but the story themes were based on the original Star Trek series, so they're a bit more broad in their moral lessons and a bit more simplistic. But the thing was, the original Star Trek series had really good sci-fi writers doing that, like really like heavyweights, and the Orville didn't. So the points it was making were not very clever. I mean, they were really dumb.
Yeah,
Kind of.
it doesn't resonate quite as deeply or something. Yeah, still good. But
No. Yeah, so when they went away from doing that, then it became way better. But there were a lot of ones. Like back in the 80s, we had Quark. I don't know if anyone remembers that, but that was a TV series about a bunch of people on a garbage scow. So this was like a sci-fi ship, but with his crew, and Quark was the captain. He was really happy to be in charge of all these people, but they're actually like a garbage ship. Their mission was to pick up rubbish. It was freaking cool. Yeah. So Quark, and there was Red Dwarf, of course, a bit later on in the 90s, where you have a bunch of idiots sort of stuck on a little ship together. A little kind of, well, initially a huge ship, but then a tiny, tiny little ship, and they're sort of making their way through the universe. I freaking love Red Dwarf. I loved it back in the day. It sort of went on a bit too long and became a parody of itself. But do you guys know Red Dwarf?
No,
I've heard. I know it's got.
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it. So
Yeah, same here.
Well, I would recommend the early series, and not any further than that. It's quite good. Well,
Futurama was an incredible with these like sort of really highly educated writers, which is great for sci-fi, even comedic sci-fi. They're very serious about science and math and everything, and good sci-fi writing, especially the original run of Futurama, the first 4 seasons. Just incredible to me and so funny.
Futurama, very good one. So that was based on the Simpsons. I mean, not really based on the Simpsons. The writers came from that. The success of that, with Matt Groening doing the
Matt,
Simpsons.
He is like a co-creator of it, along with these really like educated and capable science fiction / comedy writers.
Yeah, and they're going into doing and it basically came out at the turn of the millennium, pretty much.
Yeah, I think it's New Year's Eve, 1999 is the first episode,
and that's
roughly when it came out. Yeah,
in the story with Fry being frozen at that date.
Yes, New Year's Eve, and then he's frozen for 1,000 years. And is unfrozen New Year's Eve.
1,000 years later.
1,000 years later. I was trying to think, what's the year 1,000 years later, and I blanked. But yeah.
So that was great. It had also all this synchronicity, but people were sort of thinking about that kind of those millennial issues at that time as well. So it was part of that cultural zeitgeist about the future and the future actually turning out to be a dystopia and crap and all that. And it was very much.
Well, I know since I've like studied their commentaries and everything religiously, at least for the original run, I know that they specifically wanted it to be not a negative future and not a positive future.
Right.
This is not a dystopia. It's not a utopia. It's like now, there's good, there's bad.
And... But they have like very specific parody in there of Star Trek. With
they parody during its run. They parody everything, sci-fi and other
like mob comedies.
Totally,
yeah. It's a genius piece of work. I've been slowly making my way through it and enjoying it a lot. Especially Katie Seagal's character, Leela.
Yes, great.
Brilliant. That's a fantastic one. I was trying to think of other ones because we've like every genre, of course, has parodies. Like westerns.
Men in Tights.
What's that, Tom?
Men in Tights for Robin Hood movies.
Oh yeah. That's a Mel Brooks film, yeah. And that was like after Spaceballs.
Yeah, it wasn't as good. I think Spaceballs was really a storm in a bottle, and you can't really easily, at least, redo something like that. Even Mel Brooks couldn't do it. So
yeah.
Well,
he was put Young Frankenstein as the top tier for me. Mel Brooks.
Which one?
Young Frankenstein.
Oh my God! Yes. Oh, that was awesome as well. That was.
Oh no!
My masterpiece. Yeah.
Blazing Saddles.
People love it.
Yeah.
Let's see. I go for Blazing Saddles.
Yeah.
And you know what? Another satire than staring us right in the face is Shrek.
Yeah. So we've got the
first one,
reinvention of a fairy story, whereas we take it from the baddie's point of view, and the baddie's the goodie. So that's
yes. But beyond the plot, you also have a lot of parodying of Disney movies and Disney tropes. The princess with the birds, singing with the birds, making the birds die. The wolf. All of that.
Yeah.
There were so many.
And we have cameos of like Puss in Boots and other characters like that coming in, and having the Prince Charming kind of
Prince Charming is actually
having a great big head and a tiny body and all that kind of stuff. So it's That's a good one, Tance.
And obviously, the Beauty and the Beast kind of reversal parody is the whole.
Yeah, absolutely.
story,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, that is a traditional sort of thing, really. Like the whole fairy tale reversal had been done for decades in writing. I don't know why, but that was a thing. Like all the way back in the day, I remember one of my favorite fantasy series was called The Dragon and the George, where obviously the traditional fantastic story about George being the knight Saint George, he goes and kills a dragon. But in this world, anyone who fights a dragon is called a George. And this guy from the future, from our time, he gets zapped back into the past, into the body of a dragon. So instead of getting into the body of a knight, he becomes a dragon. And he has to save the princess. So the dragon has to save the princess from the knight and all that kind of stuff. And it's really enjoyable. I love it. And there's a whole series of these stories by the same guy. I think it's George. No, I can't remember his name, but he did a whole bunch of them, and they're gorgeous. And he wrote the first one back in like the 1950s.
Right.
And kept writing into the 80s or the 90s or something like that. So these were from the early days of sci-fi fantasy. So yeah, I definitely recommend those. Those are cool. Yeah, like speaking of writing, let's see, the guy who was famous for Terry Brooks. What's that?
Nothing.
Terry Brooks' Tales of Shannara, which is a really kind of turgid fantasy series. It's sort of like, based on the whole Lord of the Rings series. Like, he's doing his version. It was very popular back in the 80s. They're not parodies, they're not clever, they're just someone else's version of that to cash in. But he also wrote this series called Magic Kingdom for Sale Sold. And it's a whole series about this guy who becomes a millionaire and accidentally buys a fantasy kingdom and becomes the ruler and has to manage it. And it's sort of, it's losing money and stuff like that, and he has to put it in the black and, fix everything and fix all the issues. And it's really cool. So that's a fantastic series. So Magic Kingdom for Sale Sold. That's another series. Oh, fantasy written. I'm just blurting out this stuff. Piers Anthony, the Zant series.
Oh.
Yeah, I was thinking of Piers Anthony and Robert Asprin. That's what the comedy fantasy I knew of.
Yeah.
So it's cool to hear about, 20, 30 years earlier, in the 50s, this Dragon and the George stuff was kind of their forefathers.
Yeah, I mean, but Piers
yeah,
Anthony with his Zant theories, that includes like mythology, basically. So it doesn't really make fun of fantasy. It does make fun of fantasy, but more mythological things he's including in there. Lots of ancient Greek mythology and Roman mythology and stuff like that in a very, very crazy comedy, silly thing. But yeah, Robert Asprin with his Myth series. That's it's a fantasy parody. But he also has his sci-fi parody series, which was the Fool's Company, yeah. Exactly, Baines. I loved it. I read the first one, but not the rest.
Same here. I didn't like it as much as the Myth series.
But excellent writer.
Oh yeah, he was great and broke every rule as a writer. Like I love those books so much. This is a side note, but I started reading about, here's the rules of good writing and bad writing, and every bad thing is a Robert Asprin.
I want to check him out.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Well, you have to know the rules to break them, and he probably knew them very well.
Well, they're highly entertaining. Like I would say the first 6 books of the Myth series are just great, and they kind of fall off after that, sadly. But he's not around anymore, and I think someone else is continuing the series.
Okay.
First
that usually is a problem. Usually.
Yeah.
often. Well, actually, speaking of that, I mean, there's a wealth of things. We've got not Piers Anthony. We already talked about him. We've got
Well, for him,
Discworld.
just before you move on, I'll say this: Xanth is about the same. Like 6 books, maybe about the first 6 books are really great, and they're not as good after that. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, it evolves. It starts off as being very cheeky and sexy, and it evolves into be something less sexy and more cheeky and often formulaic, but
Way too many
sometimes
puns.
there's
Went
yeah, way
crazy
too many
with
puns.
later.
But often something cleverer with pathos. So it does evolve. It's an interesting series. But yeah, with the Discworld, which was a super famous thing, Terry Pratchett.
Oh, yeah.
So that started out as like an airplane sort of thing. Like the original books. Like everybody focuses on, oh yeah, Terry Pratchett because he's so clever and he's like left wing and he's just he has all these clever like satirical comments in his later books. Yeah, go back to the first one and see where it started. And he was just doing just pure parody of popular fantasy in the 80s and the 70s. Like, actually referencing, Anne McCaffrey's Pern series, and Conan was referenced in there. Well, Swords of Lankmar, from Fritz Leiber, all these things are directly referenced. It's very sexy, very funny, very wild, and very dangerous. And I love those first books because of that. Later on, he becomes a pretty wanky, I have to say, even though it's like it's parody, it's satire, and it's often clever. And he thinks he put a lot of thought into the writing and stuff like that. Often it's just a bit too much, and he's trying too hard to make the point. So yeah, you can always run into that when you're doing like a clever satire. But definitely a series I would recommend from the genius Terry Pratchett, who I met a few times. So he was
no way! Wow, that's cool.
Interesting fellow with a very funny way of talking. I couldn't imitate it.
Oh, hello, Mr. Ocean. How are you?
I wish it was like that. It was more like, oh, hello. What are you doing here? Off, yes, you. Oh, this is interesting. My name's Terry Pratchett. sort of like that. Like one of his characters. Yeah. Let's see. There's so much in the fantasy realm that you could just like Asterix. So it was just parody and satire from the very beginning.
Yeah, I don't think it is parodying like historical stuff. I think it is a parody of modern society, just set in the like Julius Caesar goal, in a sense. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, parodying modern ethnic stereotypes.
Mm-hmm.
Very much so. In every single way.
Bureaucracy often gets lampooned. There is also
athletics, everything.
Athletics, yeah. You name it, like gender wars as well.
It's in the title, The Great Divide. Yeah, all this stuff.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tintin as well, but slightly less so. I think Tintin.
And then I think is not a satire. I think it is like it has satiric elements, especially towards the latest books have a lot of satiric elements. For example, like in Tintin and the Picaros, we start off like the first. When he goes to the country of the Picaros, I don't remember which one it was. We see the plane flying in, and it is like a favela style, a really shanty town, sort of
like a slum.
Like a slum with a sign that says Viva Tapioca.
Who's the leader of the
Tapioca
team.
is the guy, yeah. And then when, all the adventure has taken place and then we have a change of the regime and all of that, and then eventually, Tintin and friends leave on the plane flies out and it is the exact same slum. And everything is exactly the same, but the sign has changed and says Viva Alcazar.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the famous Who song, which was say hello to the new boss, same as the old boss.
Yeah.
Won't get fooled again. And of course, which is one of my favorite songs because it's you will always get fooled again constantly, and I love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love satirical music or like parody music like that. There's one of my favorite lines in this song by T-Rex, which was the 1970s glam rock band, and it's called "You Won't Fool the Children of the Revolution, no, you won't fool." Because back then it was all about the revolution and us changing things and breaking mores and all this kind of stuff. You can't fool the children, and it's like a really angry protest song, but it's totally satirical. It's parodying that kind of thing. Because one of the lines is, "I drive a Rolls Royce because it's good for my voice." But you won't fool the children of the revolution. Yes, you bloody will. We make money off the children of the revolution. Which was actually very intelligent for the day because everybody else is sort of just buying into this. Intelligent bands like Pink Floyd and whatever were just, just like speaking the myth that everyone was believing. But yeah, he was like totally parodying the whole thing. But yeah, I think that is one of the most important things. Realizing that the silliness that everyone is buying into without question, and then just taking another look at it and being the first one to do that in a clever way makes you stand out, whereas say Meet the Spartans didn't, because we'd already been there and done that, and that wasn't
it wasn't that Meet the Spartans has nothing intelligent in it. Like there's nothing. They just have like a bunch of dudes in Halloween costumes farting. So
yeah, it's obvious.
Yeah,
it's obvious. Whereas say Blazing Saddles was like way more clever, because that was undercutting a lot of this stuff from these westerns in all sorts of different ways. Like a black cowboy hero, for example. Like you just hadn't seen that.
Yeah, considering also who John Wayne was and what he believed. So
exactly. So that for the time was like a biting satire, but also a generalized parody in all sorts of ways. Spaceballs again. No one had been able to make fun of Star Wars or really do another version of Star Wars, and that did it in every single way so well. And in hindsight, you might look at it and say, "Oh, it's an easy thing to parody something like Star Wars," but why didn't anyone do it before then?
yeah, and why didn't anyone manage to do it again after? I mean, who has parodied Star Wars that well? Nobody. So.
Okay, something like from a slightly different version. Flash Gordon. So Flash Gordon was a weird film. That's like a really sort of like super camp thing, but it's like a sci-fi parody of it was done in like 1980 or something like that, I think. But it's sort of parodying those 1930s style ridiculous sci-fi things. Because by 1980s, no one thought that sci-fi looked like that anymore. That was not the style at the time. We were more thinking of Star Wars or Star Trek, that kind of thing. No one thought that spacemen walk around in shiny tights and fight with swords in that particular style, with in that kind of hyper ridiculous way, and yet Flash Gordon did it. They had these guys with wings and the Hawkmen. It's ridiculous in its own way, but then again you watch it and you think, wow, this is like the burlesque version of sci-fi. It's cool in its own way. So that would be my pick for something that is just weirdly standing out as a parody satire. What about you guys? What would you pick out as being your thing that would really stand out?
Gold.
Spaceballs, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
That's cool.
You mean the best one, or just what?
It doesn't matter. It could be best one or something that stands out because it's weird and it's interesting.
Well, I don't know about this. It's more than just a parody, but The Big Lebowski is one of my favorite movies, and it's kind of the story is a Philip Marlowe story. It's like The Big Sleep.
Yes.
It's like
Very
this
good
noir
pick,
detective
Banks.
story, but it's like with all these sort of wild characters, but done in sort of a comedic version, set in modern day LA, with a detective who is so clueless that it's crazy. I don't have an ending to that sentence, but
Very good pick.
Yeah,
But it's got weird, surreal moments in it. Like freaking surreal, but also made with characters that you know, like real people characters. Like the dude is someone, like I knew people like that. I knew his landlord who collected shoes, that bizarre guy. I know those people. All the people in that film, people I've met and known. So, it's so weird and beautiful because of it. Definitely a cool one. Funnily enough, a lot of the Coen brothers films, like there's things like, more serious, but there's ones like that, like Raising Arizona, which is one of my favorites, which sort of falls into parody territory of action film in a beautiful, clever, surreal way. So, yeah, good pick, Baines. I like it.
can't get enough of that movie. Let's go.
Oh, yeah. Definitely, I'll rewatch that. Well, this has been our parody Quackcast where we just talked about parodies.
Yeah.
Love.
I mean, I didn't know about raising this because now we're like practically out of time, but I wonder if things are harder to parody now. I think it could be done effectively, but
I'm not sure people.
things- Yeah,
Oh,
go ahead.
God. No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, so many movies, shows, and everything kind of labor to be self-aware and build in the parody into the thing itself. This has been going on for years, like because they want to stop the mockery, or they want to stop a parody from happening, or they just want to say, "Oh, if anyone makes fun of this, we'll make fun of it first. We'll do the thing and we'll make fun of it."
Yeah. Now, I also
That's
think
cool.
nowadays it's also a bit of a risk to invest money into making fun and poking fun at any kind of IP or movie, because it's so easy to get people offended, and often the satire is lampooning things that are risky if you like. So maybe people are not willing to risk money over this, and whatever might domino from a parody. So
Yeah,
there's also
I mean, maybe that's why it should be the domain of people who do web comics and do things.
I like that, babe.
Where all the original kind of cool stuff starts there anyway. It's not going to
Yeah.
be a corporate entity.
I would endorse that. Yeah.
We are the engine that we're at the forefront of the zeitgeist. We know, we're the cool kids. That's true.
Yeah, I mean, if you're part of this corporate thing and you need all this money invested to make something happen, you can't be one of the cool kids. It's just like it's made impossible.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point. And the more independent, the cooler you are. So Drunkduck must be the coolest out on the net.
The outskirts of the outskirts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're the final frontier. So
Bleeding edge, dude. We got the bleeding edge.
Yeah.
Molecularly bleeding edge. Like we don't even bleed. We just like we discard electrons. we're just on the very edge. All right. So yeah, this has been Quackcast number 664. Oh my god, 2 more, or really 1 more until we get to 666. Jeez.
oh wow, and it will be towards the end of the year too, yeah.
The evil cast. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.